The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. My topic today and question is, which God does Joni Lamb, Doug Weiss, Perry Stone, and even others serve? I want to, before I get to that subject, I want to first address something that I touched on in another video that unfortunately it was recorded but rejected by YouTube. After I made the short video on the response to Joni's threatening video, I then addressed that topic with a little more substance, and unfortunately I used words that YouTube didn't like. Now, the words I used, I have seen others use those same words, so I'm not quite sure why my video was rejected, but it was. And then in the course of that, life just happened. I intended to do another video. Then I was having issues with my phone. I had to get a new phone. And then as I was just contemplating what that next video is going to look like, I saw a video of Perry Stone, and it was his prophecy. And I didn't think that I lingered on it, but his name kept coming up in my spirit that week, which was this past week. And I don't really know much about him. I've never watched him or followed him. I've probably seen him here or there, but his name just kept coming up. And then Laura Lynn had her video, and it was addressing him. So that was very interesting to me. And then her video obviously included a tape recording of him and another person speaking, which was very interesting. So I thought it was quite disturbing, and I'm going to discuss that here today. But as I was praying during the week, I was brought to several verses in Psalms, and I was just meditating on them and waiting for a release to do a video. And so this video does have a new topic, but I do want to address what we saw last week in that video with Joni and Doug. So as you probably are all aware by now, the firearm that she was holding and shooting was not actually a firearm. It looks exactly like a firearm, but they are considered less lethal or non-lethal weapons. And I shared that with my husband, who happens to be a firearms expert and a firearms instructor. And he even said that to him, it looked in a picture still, it looked like a firearm called a high point. And then when he saw the video, he said, oh no, they're not even at a shooting range. They're at, they're using non-lethal or less lethal. So then I asked, well, why were they wearing the vest? Why were they wearing the protection? And he said that the projectile that's shot out, it can hurt. And so it can ricochet off the walls. And so that's why the vests were worn. And also the hearing, because that expulsion, it's still a projectile. It's a CO2 cartridge, and they're called pepper balls or rubber balls. I'm not an expert in that, but he was sharing that information with me. So that is why they would wear the hearing protection. But to the average person, and to me when I first saw the picture, it looked to me to be a firearm. So knowing this about what it was, do I have a change in my opinion in regard to whether that video was intended as a threat? No, absolutely not. It doesn't change it whatsoever. That firearm that Joni was using, holding, shooting, it looked like a firearm. And in the context of where we were at that time, I believe that it was a direct threat. So think about this with a weapon that looks like a firearm. We see that a lot with kids that are, or even adults, they're using paintball guns, and a lot of them look like real weapons. And, you know, there can be, and there are cases where somebody sees that, maybe somebody's outside and they're using it, or what perceives to be brandishing it or threatening people, and the call comes into the police. And so the police respond, and that person's holding that weapon, which appears to be a firearm. And if the police tell them to drop it and the person aims at them, there can be a shooting where the police end up shooting that individual holding that firearm, that weapon. That happens. So I still take it as a threat, and in the context of what was happening that week. That week, we had the interview of Lisa, who was the prior executive assistant for Joni. She was interviewed by Julie Roys. Then we also had the video by Laura Lynn, where she shared the email that she received from Joni's nephew and his wife. And the information that Lisa shared was compelling because it's consistent with the information that we've heard through Laura Lynn's channel, primarily about whistleblowers, and particularly by Morgan Ferris, who also used to work at Daystar. In regard to the nephew and the wife, I did a video of that last week, and I went through that almost like line by line, paragraph by paragraph, and their story, what they shared, corroborates the testimony of Jonathan and Susie. Exceptionally so. So that's the backdrop, okay? There's also something that happened later that week, and I'm going to talk about it at the end of this video, which I think was just icing on the cake. But that's the context. I'm sure there was other things, but you know, we're all human, and I'm sure that Joni and Doug were just feeling the effects of what's been going on. I'm sure they're feeling squeezed and pressured, and they probably don't like the fact that they're being talked about so negatively, despite the fact that they claim that, well, at least Doug claims that he doesn't watch social media, which in my opinion is just a lie. So in that context, she decides to make this video. I found it very amusing about that statement that Joni said about Doug, that he doesn't listen to or get on social media because, and that was in the context of them interviewing a pastor. I get names wrong all the time. They're referring to him as Pam because Patrick? No, I don't know. The middle name is Anthony. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But you know who I'm talking about. The initials are Pam. And I had to laugh at that interview. So Joni starts off by saying that, oh, you know, Doug, he doesn't watch any social media. He doesn't watch any of that because he doesn't want to get it in his head. That statement really has zero credibility. I find it very difficult to believe that. Doug claiming that he does not go on social media because if he wanted to talk to a fool, he would go to a bar. So in a legal context, say I was deposing somebody, meaning taking their testimony, maybe I'm cross-examining them, and they say something like that, and I know that it lacks foundation, there's an objection that we make, assuming facts not in evidence, because for him to say that he would claim to go on, if he's making that statement, there has to be a basis for it. And if you claim that you do not go onto social media, then you would have no idea whatsoever that's being said on social media, good or bad. So to say, in the negative aspect, that if you want to talk to a fool, you would go to a bar, then that would suggest that you absolutely do know what's going on in social media. You do know what they're saying because you've listened to it. So that statement has absolutely no credibility, and it shows that it's a lie. And then Joni laughing about social media, saying, oh, it's crazy out there. And so she's clearly on social media. She doesn't make such a ridiculous statement, so we have to assume that she's on there. And even if you were to give them the benefit of the doubt and agree that Doug doesn't go on social media. Well, Joni's on there, and they're married, and there is a whirlwind of accusations back and forth for 1 minute. Do you really think that even if he's not watching it, that she's not sharing with him what's going on? I mean, she's got to be telling him about all of these things that are going on, and this is in the atmosphere where ministries are dropping from their network, and people are saying things to them about the money that they've paid, sending in emails, telephone calls, and they want their money back. So this is life for them right now. For them to even purport to the public, to their audience, that this doesn't, it's like a nothing, it doesn't even make a difference in their life, is absolutely ridiculous. I am sure that this is something that is very much affecting them, and I believe that it is causing them considerable stress. So I think that also I want to mention that, and I don't know when that video was of Doug. I can't remember the timing, whether it was before or after. It doesn't know. I don't know. But Doug didn't look too good. His face was kind of bloated, and his affect was off, meaning, you know, he just seemed sedated. So I don't know what's going on, and I don't need to. It just, he seems a little bit different and off. And so let's get into the decision to record this video. So for Joni to record that video, I think it was in poor taste, but I do believe that she had an intention to threaten and intimidate. So we all know that she has yes men and yes women. She has Jimmy Evans, Tom Callender, she has her attorney, she has Arnold Torres, she's got all the ladies on her View show, and let's not forget that wildly popular PR guy, Eric Voles. And so, you know, we know, and Joni has made it clear, she's demonstrated to us that she's in charge, you know, she's God, because the fact that that phrase came up when she was kind of laughing about it when Marcus Rogers was interviewing her, and she said, and I'm not God. Well, I didn't hear anywhere in that recording that Jonathan made, and it was said so many times, Jimmy Evans saying she's the voice of God, she's God here. I never heard her butt in, because we know she can, because she likes to do that. I never heard once her say, now that's incorrect, I wouldn't say that. No, she let that happen. So that's who she is. So knowing that Joni thinks she's God, is it fair to assume that she's going to do what she wants? That she's not going to listen to counsel? I'm not going to say wise counsel. I don't really see the fruit of that that's surrounding her. But as an attorney, I have to think that her attorney wouldn't advise her to do that. Then I have to think about her PR guy. Would he? Well, we didn't really see very good behavior with him with the IHOP situation. So possibly he did have something to do with it, or maybe she made the call and she just decided to lash out on that day, and because she perceives the people that are out there writing articles, posting on social media, making videos, that they're trying to destroy her reputation. So she's in this video, she's holding a firearm, or what looks to be a firearm, and she's shooting it. And while she's shooting it at a target, it's a silhouette target, so it's a body, and she's saying, I'm canceling cancel culture. Well, how are we to take that? It's very disturbing in the light of the events as I've just went over them. Not to mention everything that's been going on for the last 2.5 months, or 3 months if we're almost there. But just that atmosphere, that was in extraordinarily poor taste, but I have to still believe that that was made to threaten and intimidate. And so then we have to ask, who is she threatening and intimidating? Well, like I said, anybody who's speaking out. Also, I think it's to those that canceled their ministries, their times on her station, and perhaps it's also a message to those who are still in bed with her as part of the ministry and they have not left, and perhaps it's a threat to them that they should not leave. And so realistically, can she get to everyone? No. But I believe that her wrath will be on, unfortunately, Jonathan and Susie, because she perceives them to have caused this earthquake that has happened, that has disrupted her Queen's Court, her kingdom. And so that, if anything, unfortunately, that would be, in my thought process, the ones that she would take it out on. So I say that to say we need to keep Jonathan and Susie and their family in our prayers. So I can't finish this portion without commenting on Doug's statement where he said that he was unaliving censorship. Isn't he the guy that divorced his wife of over 30 years? And part of that divorce agreement, from my understanding, he paid a sum of money to keep her quiet so that she would not speak about the divorce or his marriage to Joni Lamb. That's my understanding. I could be wrong in exactly what it is, and I'm not sure if anybody even has their hands on that. They might not. But that's my understanding of what he did. And choosing that word censorship is very interesting. Perhaps, Doug, you don't know what that word means. So I'll help you with it. Censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or any other information. Doug, that's what censorship is. So you want to unalive censorship? Something, it's a tool that you use to shut people up, your ex-wife, instead of her being able to respond to all the junk that you're spewing out about her, calling her an abuser and an abandoner. You've shut her mouth through censorship, but you don't like it. You distaste censorship. How strange. So that's my take on that video. I think that she did escalate it. I think that as she continues to get pressed, we're going to see more coming from her and her camp. And her camp is her buddies that are all on Team Joni. It can be, I think Lance is on it. Lance Wallnau's on her team. We've got Perry Stone. I'm sure we have many, many others. Anybody that comes out and doesn't like the fact that we're speaking and accusing us of being the accusers when it's in fact them, I'm going to consider that they're on Team Joni. So first off, and this is my opinion, I do not believe that those individuals are Christians. Their behavior, in my opinion, has removed them from the body of Christ. When I look at what I would perceive or expect from a godly leader, I would say that a godly leader seeks direction from God and adopts his ways. A godly leader is not narcissistic or arrogant. A godly leader, I would say, is humble. A godly leader seeks justice and righteousness. A godly leader is honest. A godly leader cares about those he or she leads and does not seek to harm or destroy them. A godly leader does not cover up crimes. A godly leader is strong in the Lord and will not allow corruption to enter his or her heart. I would say that a godly leader is trustworthy and surrounds himself or herself with godly confidence in order to receive wise, godly counsel. I would say that a godly leader fears God. So I have a question for all of you. To those who serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, does it appear that Joni Lamb, Doug Weiss, Perry Stone, or any others that you want to insert there, who call themselves leaders in the body of Christ, are they serving the same God? I would have to say no. I don't believe that they are. That audio recording of Perry Stone was really eye-opening. I do not know who the other person was in that recording. I do not know when it was made. We can determine the context because they were talking about accusations. So when I looked up, and he was talking about shaking a woman's hand and all these women are after him and they're all accusing him. And so I looked up Perry Stone because I knew that there were allegations. I just didn't know when. And what I found online is that in 2020, the Voice of Evangelism Board of Directors confronted Perry Stone after receiving 12 letters from women who were employed by or connected to his ministries, and they accused him of SA. So initially, the board did some investigation. They pulled him down, but quickly found him to be cleared, and they put him back in his position. You know, the typical playbook. So these complaints were reported to the police, and an investigation was performed, and it was brought to a Bradley County grand jury in March of 2023, which resulted in no charges being filed. We do not know why. Those proceedings are confidential. But the Attorney General of that district said that the case would remain open due to the possibility of new information coming in. So hopefully that will happen at some point. And in that article, Perry Stone's mouthpiece claims that all of these allegations were unfounded and they're blatant lies. And Perry Stone says, I'm Italian. I touch people. I hug people. And everybody else is wrong but me. 12 people. Not 3. Not 7. 12. 12 people. And, you know, the typical blaming the victim game. It's all them. They're lying. I did nothing wrong. Nothing to see here. And in the audio, he says, I'm going to take pills. I can't put up with this. Now I know that we only have that little snippet of the recording, but is there any evidence that he's drawing near to God there, that he's taking the high road, that he's going to fight the accusations because God's on his side? No. No. And I want to make this disclaimer as we get into this, because he claims that he's going to commit suicide, and I am not negating in any way that there are people that truly are in that spot, that very, very hard spot where they are talking about that. I'm not negating or taking away from that. What I'm speaking on is particularly his statements that he made. The initial impression that I had was that he was using that as manipulation, as a tool. And it was done in arrogance. That was my impression. Manipulation, arrogance. He said, I will take my life before I let this ministry go down. What does God have to say about that? Sounds to me as if he's putting his ministry above God. And where does God fit in that, Perry? Do you get the sense that Perry Stone fears God from the statements that he makes? Again, I know it's a snapshot, but in my opinion, this was cowardly. It was manipulative. And he has an air of arrogance about him. I believe that it takes courage to come out against these platforms, against these ministries. I've done it, and So many people have done it. My platform's extremely small, and that's fine. I enjoy commenting, receiving comments, and speaking to people, hearing their stories, and answering questions. That's, God brought me here. It wasn't me. So I am fine with where I'm at and what I'm doing. But now we're in this new era where these people that were on these platforms, and I believe that we are to blame somewhat in that regard because we placed them there, put our trust in them, and really looked upon them as rock stars. And I've learned my lesson after my experience with Mike Bickle, and personally I had to repent for that because I believe that I played a part in that, thinking that these leaders, and I'm just, I don't think that they really truly are, but these people, purported leaders, should not have been held in that standard. I think that it has snowballed into their arrogance, perhaps. And so as I took time and I, thought about these things that were on my heart, particularly Perry Stone, even before I heard that recording, and then even after that, and I was just meditating on Psalms, I'm reminded that we have joy because we do not follow the advice of the wicked. We're not fooled by the words that they speak from their pulpits. They may have fooled us before, but it's a new era. They've decided that they're going to just dig their heels in. They've decided that they're going to continue in the vein that they've gone on. They have each other's backs. They are helping each other out. They pay for each other to speak at each other's ministries. But we have joy because we will not follow their wicked, deceitful advice. No. Their wicked, deceitful, full of arrogance instruction. They're telling us what to do, that we will be quiet, that we should be ashamed of ourselves, that we should shut up and not speak. Keep it to ourselves, right, Michael Brown? Keep it to ourselves. Don't talk about it. It's gossip. We all know that they have to be hiding something in order to say that. And they've all got that front. They've all got that down. Because they want to shut us up. And the question should be why? Why do you want to shut us up? And they have to stoop down to the level of calling us the accusers of the brethren, calling us Satan. That's what they're calling us. I've shared this before. As a lawyer, I deal with this on a daily basis. When someone is accusing me of something or my client, I have to immediately assess it, determine, are they projecting? Is what they're accusing me or my client of doing, are they doing that? And typically that is the case. And I believe it is most certainly the case with the Lances and the Perrys and everyone else that's on Team Joni. God tells us that we, unlike the wicked, will prosper in all that we do. I trust that God is prospering all of us who are not bowing down to the wicked ones, that are taking a stand, and we are being bold as lions. We are not fainting. We are with 10,000 on either side. We are going forward. We're going through that valley. We're going to make it to the mountain. God's on our side. In my thoughts this week, I thought about what it would look like if we were in a situation where we're called to deny Jesus. So I started thinking about that and how I believe that this right now, the people that are speaking up, even anybody that comments, you don't have to have a platform, but anybody who's commenting, you are the ones, we are all the ones that are exercising that muscle, preparing for that day that possibly could come where we are about to be beheaded or killed because we do not deny Jesus. So we are exercising our faith, our trust in the Lord, and the fear of the Lord, the fear of God. If God tells me to speak, I'm going to speak. This was not my idea. If you watched my first video, I didn't even have it on my radar, but he told me what to do and I did it. I ask him after each video, what do I do next? And he leads me to what I do next. If he wants me to speak and speak to air, I will do it, if he's told me to do that. If he wants me to speak and I speak to one person, and that one person is encouraged, edified, receives the truth from the Lord through me, then it's worth it. Then that's all that I care about. In Psalms, we're also told that the wicked are like worthless chaff scattered by the wind, and that they have no place with the godly. That the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction. I have to hold on to that truth. On several videos, I've read comments where people are asking about justice. We're all asking for justice because in all of this, that's what we're seeking, justice. And they're asking, when is it going to happen? I don't know. I don't have those answers. God knows, but we do have to be patient. And we do have to wait on the Lord. And if you trust in the Lord, he's going to deliver his sons and daughters. He's going to direct our paths. And he says that he's going to destroy the wicked. So I have to believe what God says, that it's so. In Psalms 3, David is running from Absalom, and he's in distress, and he's crying out to God, and he's talking about his many enemies and when is God going to avenge them. And we're watching that in real time right now with Jonathan and Susie and Baby Lamb. We're asking and we're praying and we're crying out for justice. We want justice for them. But I believe that in this season, the reason that God has chosen who he's chosen and what we're seeing is happening is because of ministries. Don't you think it's odd that these ministry leaders are so rich and wealthy? On another sense, politicians who are federal employees or state employees, they're not supposed to be millionaires, but they are. So that's troubling. So that's paralleling right now. The issues of corruption that are going on in the secular world with government and the issues that are going on with corruption in the church. And God is going to clean house in the church first, and everything else will follow. When I contemplate and I think about, well, what are we doing here? What should we be doing here? I think first and foremost, it's talking, which we're doing, bringing this out into the open so that people can hear it. I'm not here to change your opinion. If you dislike my opinion, that is fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody has free will. I'm here to talk about my commentary, my analysis of what I see, and in this grand scheme of what's going on here, we can't ignore that God's in it, and he's using his people to expose it, because that's what that's what he does. We want justice for Baby Lamb, but also there's everybody else that hasn't received justice for the essays that were done against them or their family members. There is justice that we're seeking for those that have been spiritually abused in churches, by pastors, by elders, even, by other Christians. I've had this happen to me. People that were my mentors that I can look back and say, wow, that wasn't biblical, what they were speaking to me. And it doesn't change the fact that I love them. I do. But it wasn't necessarily biblical truth. So we have to stop giving our money to these ministries. That's what fuels them. Their jets, their yachts, their vacations, their mansions. That's what's going to get them. And I think that is where it's at with Joni and Doug. That's what's going to get them. It's going to hurt their pocketbook. That is what I recall Laura Lynn saying, that when Joni called her, Joni said that Jonathan's trying to kill her. And she's like, he's trying to kill you. Well, no, that's not what's happening. She said, oh, he's trying to destroy Daystar. Well, that sounds exactly like what Perry Stone said. I'd rather unalive myself than have the ministry fall. So I've been asking myself, what happens next? What do we do? I believe that God is working in all of us. Things can take a turn any day of the week. New information can come out. We're seeing things get exposed. These videos, there's so much that's coming out. Rod Parsley, my goodness. What is going on here? I wonder if people are considering lawsuits. If people have been terminated, such as Jonathan and Susie. If you've been terminated for your religious beliefs, or, that's a wrongful termination. I'm not an employment law attorney, but, any of these people that are being terminated from their jobs because they have a conviction, they're not going to do something because of their religious beliefs, or there's just harassment, like in Rod Parsley with being around this pastor who's entirely nude in front of you and you're expected to work. Well, that's a hostile situation. So I would be speaking with an attorney. Does Joni, Doug, Perry Stone, do they fear God? I want to know what you think in the comments. Do you see any evidence of that? I just don't. I see lies. I see deflection. Cover up. None of those things are of God. So lastly, I want to talk about the video that went viral on Sunday by Kim Chadwell. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know her this week. And she is an extraordinary woman of God. She is America's grandma. And I'm going to, if you haven't seen that video, I'm going to put it in the link I'm going to link it in the description box so that you can. And it was just so powerful. She heard from the Lord. The Lord told her to tape this letter to Daystar that they are expelled from the body of Christ. And it has biblical backing. In 1 Corinthians 5:5, Paul, as you recall, was talking to the church about the man who was bragging about having relations with his mother-in-law, and Paul said to throw this man out and hand him to Satan so that his sinful nature will be destroyed and save himself. So we have a book of instruction. It's called the Bible. Ironically, the people who have claimed to be biblical and leaders and Bible scholars are not the ones that are abiding by the Bible. It is the peasants like us, and the Pharisees are the ones that continue to oppress us. So we are not to fellowship with those who claim to be Christians but so blatantly sin. And that's what's happening here. Those who love and fear the Lord are rising up, and they are calling sin, sin, corruption, corruption, and assault, assault. And it's quite bizarre that we must do it, but we must. So I just want to encourage you all, continue speaking up. Share your thoughts and comments with me here, and I look forward to hearing from you.